booster to the other town meeting before you two showed up about the responsibility that we have to God to make a direct commitment to put in the time and the effort that's required for us to make progression in learning. You can't possibly become knowledgeable in Torah and in mitzvahs and Yerushalayim unless you put the effort into it. It doesn't come accidentally. It comes by virtue of tremendous effort. It says, Odom homo yulad. A man is built, is created, born to work hard. The Medrash tells us what you have to work hard. It admonishes us, choose to work hard in Torah and mitzvahs. Because if you're going to go and work hard, you want the maximum return, and that is certainly the maximum return. Now, and with a lot of dinim, we didn't really cover it. Now, I'd like to cover some psukim minutes. On page 55 with the Rashi, have two psukim, and beginning of chapter 22 in Shemos. If you'll read it, the two psukim. All right, would you read it, Naphtali? Would you read the? Oh, what about the Hebrew? All right, Batala, will you read the Hebrew? The Hebrew, please. All right, would you go and read that, Naphtali, the English translation?
Shed for him. He has nothing.
I want to ask anybody at this chair, do you understand what it means? You're reading the words, and it absolutely makes no sense whatsoever. He's breaking into the house as the sun shines, and if the sun doesn't shine, he's not breaking into the house. It's very awkward indeed.
Faith for his deed.
Wait. I understand what that says. That's the last possible. What is it talking about? What is it talking about? Yes. All right, Mikhail, what's your?
Let him go.
I will now learn with you what it really means.
Okay, if the son is witness, that means if the knowledge that he has committed a sin is good known, because compared to life.
I'll tell you what Chazal tell us, Rashi tell us, but you should understand, this is one of the reasons I tell you this. We're learning these psukim, so you should understand that you read it and you translate it, and it still doesn't make sense. Because the translation is inadequate, and the explanation of the translation is not there at all. I could read Uncos too, but I'll read Rashi because Rashi explains it. Now, first I'll read the Hebrew again. Even Makteres, the Motze Aganav, Makteres usually is referring to when you're breaking in. A person's breaking into a place, and the Ganav is found, V'hukah, and he is smitten v'mace and dies. Who dies? The Ganav dies. That means the balabos, the owner of the house, had killed the Ganav. He was breaking into the house, and the balabos killed the Ganav. Mace and the Ganav says, let me explain. I gave you an opportunity to explain.
Yeah, but I based it on wrong.
Obviously, let's hear it, then you'll talk later. Ein lo dummy. Balabos is not guilty of murder at all. And he is not to be punished because he killed the Ganav that broke into the house. Now, in Zorcha Hashemesh, and if the sun shines, what difference does it make? The sun shines, doesn't shine. The guy's breaking into the house. What difference does it make? You can see or not? What if you got lights?
If you can see that you can give him the benefit of the doubt.
Benefit of the doubt. He's breaking in. Dumb and blow. Then if you kill the Ganav, you are going to be punished. And we got to go understand why. We're going to learn it. Shalayim Yishalayim, he has to pay the proper punishment. He may law if he doesn't have the proper thing. Nin karba geneva also, he should be sold for his geneva. Now let's look in Rashi. Let's look at Rashi. Let me explain it. I gave you an opportunity to explain. Look at Rashi. What do you have to drag up? And Rashi, the first column, about 8-9 lines from the top, it says Beis. That's first, Ein lo dumim. Wait. Aleph. Aleph is about 5 lines from the top. First column. You have it? Ima Makteres. You have it? All right. It's Gemara and Sanhedrin Abayas. When he breaks into the house, Rashi says, who's taking from the Gemara, Ein lo dumim. Rashi says, Ein sicha, this is not murder. Why not? Sher yadua, because it is known. Sher yaduhu, Ein olam mamid atmo, because the ordinary person would not stand by. V'rosh and notli memono b'fonav, and he sees a person taking his money in front of him, shosach, and be quiet about it. It's known that there will be a reaction by the owner of the money to try to protect that money. Lefichach, therefore, Almanas came, therefore we must assume when the person breaks into the house, this condition, he has come. Sheim yami bala moment kenegdo. If the owner of the money would stand opposite him and try to stop him, genu, he will kill him. He comes now not only to steal, but actually to murder the inhabitants of the house. So if that's the case, my son will tell you, he's now have a din of erode. He's a person that comes to kill you. You can kill him before he kills you. And that, in fact, is the halacha. That you can kill a person that's trying to kill you. And that is not even called murder at all. In modern law, it's called justifiable homicide. Self-defense. Everybody agrees. Nobody is even to be found guilty of that. We had a case just recently where two young men tried to go and rob a person carrying groceries in the street on the south side of the city of Chicago. And they took a knife and they were about to attack him. He took a gun and shot one of them, and they didn't even press charges against him. Justifiable homicide. It's not even considered a crime. Defend yourself. Here it is. Let's go further. Now, the second posting. What does that mean? No. What Rashi says, hey, this is a parable. If the thing is clear to you, she'esh lo sholocho, that the thief has peace with you, the owner of the house. You, the owner of the house. Because that, just like this sun shines, everybody feels at peace in the world. So also it is plain to you that he has not come, he's not coming to kill you. Now how can that be? We just postulated that, how can it be, how can we postulate a case where the thief is not coming to kill the owner if the owner tries to stop him from stealing his money? Listen very carefully. Even if the owner of the money is trying to stop him, he still will not kill the owner of the money. When in this case, going all for instance, a case where a father is breaking into his son's house to rob his son. And we say, Yudua is known, at least among Jewish people, the mercy of the father, Allah ben, is on the son. And I'm sure by most Goyim as well, that the father would not come to want to kill the son. He wants to take the money of the son because perhaps he's a poor person and the son is wealthy beyond measure and he's not really treating him in the proper way, so he's trying to take a little of the money so he can survive. Whatever the reason is, the fact is the father is the thief, or would-be thief, and the son is the balabos. If the son kills the father and claims that it was justifiable homicide, Ochad says, no, in fact it's not justifiable, because you were never in danger of your life. It's true he could have taken your money, but you were not in danger of your life, and therefore, and that's in the American law as well, reasonable force. You're not supposed to use excessive force. For instance, if a person comes, you don't take out a gun and blow out his brains. That is not reasonable for the affront. And the same thing here is the law. See, once you understand the law, he's not coming to kill. So if you take yourself to kill this would-be, you are committing a crime because, in fact, he is not coming to kill, even though he's coming to steal. You understand that? Now, once you understand the explanation, you understand it means something. It's not the words that you read that means nothing. You get a translation, it doesn't mean a thing. You read words, signing, not signing. You're breaking in, you're not breaking in. What? You understand? You see how beautiful the Torah is? And it's very logical. And the Talmudic principles are applied to the present day in the Anglo-Saxon legal system. These are Talmudic principles. You get them? Very logical.
But if someone was actually breaking into your house, you would give them the benefit of the doubt. You wouldn't try to kill them.
Well, it depends, sir. It depends.
Let me ask you a challenge.
It depends, sir.
If everyone's out and he sees the guy there and doesn't want any part of it.
No.
Or
He's trying to get, some jewelry or something, and you see him getting there.
My dear young man, the Gemara understands the psychology of a thief. I'll tell you a joke. This is a Jewish story told about a joke here. There was once a band of robbers that was living, a Jewish band, and he had the band of robbers, also Jewish. This is a story, as the story goes. And he was living in a small village, and he had a simcha. His son became bar mitzvah. So he invited all the townspeople to come to his simcha and eat by his meal. The townspeople didn't know what to do. If they didn't show up, the robber would come and murder them. God knows what he would do to them. So he went to the local rabbi and asked him an eitzah, what should we do? How can we eat from him? He's probably not kosher. The rabbi says, don't worry, I'll ask. So he sends a message to the robber chief to come over to his house. He wants to talk to him privately. He says, you and I know how you make a living. He says, everybody's got to make a living. He says, tell me. Of course, Rabbi, I'd be glad to tell you anything. After all, I respect you very highly. I says, Rabbi, what do you do? He says, well, we go and we look at something that's attractive and we case it. We see that all the avenues of how to go and break in and take what we need, and we do it. We do it on a very scientific fashion. He says, what if it happens to be that the only time you can break in is on Shabbos? Would you do it? Of course, Rabbi. We don't let anything stand in our way. We have to do what has to be done. He says, if somebody happens to be on the premises, what would you do? Well, I said, listen, if he's going to stop us, we have to put him away. We do what we have to do. We are efficient and we do our job. We're not looking for trouble, but we're prepared to handle whatever it is. He says, what happens if you come on the premises? What do you do? We take everything we can take. We clear out the place good. Boy, we're experts at this. He says, what if you should break into a place that has a lot of not kosher meat? What would you do? Well, we take that. Rabbi, I'm a Jew. I wouldn't be trained. See, so this is the story, as the story goes, you understand? So the rabbi said that there's another joke, excuse me, but it illustrates a point. It illustrates the point that you have to understand where you're coming from and what you're thinking. The Gemara understands the psychology of a person, and of course made by God, and it tells us what, in fact, is the law is that way. The law has been that way from the Talmudic on, from the time God gave the Torah. It's still that way in American jurisprudence and any other place I know of. Yeah, just way. Now let's go further. I'll give you another pussy. You see, I just want to call your attention to these psukim because I don't want you to think that they're so simplistic. You read the words, and then happens to the you don't understand. Then it goes out to talk about different types of laws of damages. If you cause damage by causing a fire, or if you there are different types of shomrim, shomer chinam, shomer socher. We know all about that. Bailments, a person watching something for somebody. The law is generally like this. To the degree that the person that's watching the article or using the article gets benefit from it, to that degree his responsibility in relation to the article increases. In other words, if he's getting a minimal amount of benefit, he has a minimum amount of responsibility to it. Shomer chinam, he's watching for nothing. So he's not being paid, so therefore he can't use it, but anything else, he's not responsible if it's stolen, if it's not negligent, or if it's lost, or other things, but and each case has a little more thing. I won't go into the detail, but the Gemara discusses with quite a great degree as learning above all these laws at the Idacom Academy. And that goes talking about various laws. So we have here a law here says that if you lend money to a poor Jew, matter of fact, if you lend, actually it says if you lend, actually you have a responsibility to lend money to a poor Jew. If God forbid a Jew is poor, every other Jew is responsible for his fellow Jew, and he's required to help him at all times. And of course, the laws of tzedakah are great, and there are a lot of laws, and perhaps we could spend profitably many sessions on learning the laws of tzedakah. Tremendous. But this is the general rule in the tzedakah. In relation to giving charity, you give charity to the degree that you do not shame the recipient of the charity. To that degree, you get reward from God. And to the degree you shame the recipient of the charity, to that degree you lessen the amount of reward you get, and you may even make it a sin rather than a mitzvah to do. In other words, if people have to go and shame people when they give them a tzedakah, they don't get a reward, they get a sin. Because even though technically speaking they're giving them something, they're taking it out on they're shaming them, which is an improper thing to do. The Medrash talks about this quite extensively. Last week, Sedra, the Moshe talks very extensively about it. He says, look at here, he says, when the forces of nature take from one, give to the other, they don't go around taking out, hurting somebody. For instance, in the winter months, the night takes most of the time, and the day is diminished. In the summer months, the day now is recompensed for the time it lost, and it's taking most of the time, and the night is diminished. And there is a flow, an ebb and flow, and all the forces of nature. Nobody takes it in the same way. If God decides that one person should be wealthy and another person to be poor, it doesn't mean that the wealthy person is in a position where he should go and make the poor person terrible, because nobody gave that. What he should be doing is living a frugal life, even if he is rich, and realize that the money that God gave him over a frugal life was intended by God as a test to see if in fact he would utilize this money to serve God, which means to do mitzvahs, giving tzedakah and other. If a person understands that when God gives him a blessing, the blessing was intended not to be misused, but to be used properly, then God is giving this person more blessings, because this shows that he deserves blessings. Well, God forbid, if a person gets blessings and he misuses the blessings, one incentive is there for Almighty God to continue giving him blessings. This is simple logic. If you have somebody that you put trust in, and this person is honored by you, and you give him a lot of positions of trust, and each time he put him to the test, he successfully meets test, you are quite favorably disposed to such a person, and you want to do more good for that person. On the other hand, if God forbid you have a person that whatever you give him, he misuses and he misinterprets it and makes it worse, it diminishes your desire to give him more. Isn't that right? It's logical. Let's go further. And then Rashi goes on and says there, what if a poor person comes to the point of never, he's borrowed money, he hasn't got anything, no property, nothing, just clothes on his back. So he has to go and get an extension of a loan that he borrowed. First of all, any interest to a Jewish person. If a lot of people, they get a lot of money by charging interest. So say like this, and the Medrash talks about what they do, they use the money they got to make money with interest, so they know that against the Torah to charge interest to a Jew, so that instead of helping a Jew with tzedakah, they go and use their money to make more money from the goyim. And then they lord it over their poor fellow Jew, and they don't help them the way they should. That's improper. God will not allow that. God will punish such a person. It says now, but what if it comes to the case here, we have a case here, what if a person gives, he's such a straight, and all he's got left, So he has to put a pledge up for some money. So he pledges his night clothes to give him a little extra time to pay the loan. Now comes night. If he's got no night clothes, he's got no pillow or covers, it gets cold at night. He's going to cry out to God. He's uncomfortable. You, the wealthy one, you can sleep. You got covers on him. He has no covers. So I, God, of you, that you every night you should restore this man's covers so he can use it, sleep that night, and take it back the following morning. And then the next night, you will complain, you a wealthy type, you can't be bothered to keep on taking it back and forth. Don't say that, God says, because you must understand one of the fundamental concepts of Yiddishkeit is that the Gemara tells us God conducts himself in relation to us the way we conduct ourselves in relation to others. In other words, Mida connected Mida. The way a person acts, that's the way God acts to him. So look at the Pasuk here. This is a Pasuk here. Pasuk, chapter 22, verses 25 and 26. Would somebody read Hebrew? Page 57. Menachem?
57?
57.
Okay.
It's a Chof Hei and Chof Vav. You read it? Second line. All right, Michoel, what's the English translation of those two Pesukim?
25.
25 and 26.
If thou at all take thy neighbor's ministry pledge, thou shalt give him by the time the sun.
God is gracious. He's giving this as a pledge for an additional time to raise the money that he owes you because you lent it to him. I want to call your attention to a Rashi, a beautiful Rashi. It says like this, Chof Hei in the Rashi. You have the Rashi, Chof Hei, first column, 5 lines from the top. Chovo Yachbo. If you will really take a pledge, that means security, a mashkin. Kolo shel chavolo, a mashkin b'shas chavo. Anytime the language chavola is not a pledge at the time of the actual lending of the money, es love porea. But it's not printed in mind correctly, the word, but I know what the word is. The lender, the borrower, is giving a pledge for additional time to pay. Now look at the brackets there. Chabol tachbo. What's chabol tachbo? You got to keep on back and forth. Kofo b'chol. It repeats this type of activity. Now you are a wealthy type. You can't be bothered with this little thing. So God says to them, watch your step. Kabbalah many times. Omar Kodesh Baruch Hu, says the Holy One, blessed be He. How many times are you, the wealthy one, are you found guilty in front of me? And your soul goes up to me. Every night. And it gives a judgment and a decision in relation to whether or not I should restore that soul to you. And in truth, you deserve another day of life. Mishpotim, Shmos, Rashi, Chof Hei, Perik, Chof Beis, and Posek Chof Hei, Im Chabol Tachbo. And I'll read again from the brackets. Chabol Tachbo, you should certainly give a pledge. This is the oni, the poor person, is giving a pledge to the balabos, to the wealthy person, to give him an extension of time to pay up the loan. Kofol Achor, he repeats this complex, this concept of giving the pledge over and over again, every night, every night. Come upon him many times. Omar Kodesh Baruch Hu, says the Holy One, blessed be He. In truth, how many times have you wealthy one, been found guilty in front of my court? And your soul goes up to me every evening, and it has to give a judgment, a reckoning, and a judgment is placed when he's chayavis before Nai, and you are found guilty in front of me. In other words, you don't deserve another day. You messed up so much that you don't deserve it. But I, God, have still returned it to you, regardless of the fact that you don't deserve it. Afato, so you also. So, take, Hoshiv and return, told, take, wash and return this as many times as necessary until the poor person never can get together the few funds to be able to pay you back. And don't make his life miserable. He's already got a hard time. Like we say in the Gemara, a poor person is a dead person. He's got so much bitterness in his life that, as a matter of fact, Chazal tell us that in Anias, in poverty, all the other Yisurim are in it, because in truth you're living a living hell. Every day you don't know if you're going to survive to the next day. You shouldn't know from such things. Or people don't even know where their next meal is going to come. You should know them. But you've got to have empathy, and you've got to be a Baal, because a Jewish person must be a Rahman, a Baal Rachamim. Because our mighty God is a Baal Rachamim. And God will not tolerate a person to be an Akzori, a cruel type. This is what our Torah is teaching us. And it goes further. It can refer to God, you're not supposed to curse, or it can refer to a judge, a Jewish judge. The Medrash talks about a person goes before a Jewish tribunal, and the judge, the Bezdin, rules that he wins the case. So he goes around saying that Dayan, that Rov, he's a Malach. Oh, then the next day he has another case and he loses the case. He says, oh, that Dayan is a fool, a shulter. You're not permitted to do that. You're not permitted. He's pasking the halacha according to the way it should be pasking, deciding the question according to Torah law, and you're not permitted to curse and anything like this. In other words, you're not permitted to be this type of a way where people resent. Same way when the Rabbi Shalom gives you difficulties. You're not supposed to say, why did it happen? There's a story, that's a joke. There's a cartoon that says, a voice man says, why not? The truth is that we should accept what God sends us, even if it may be a little difficult for us to accept, because in truth, everything He sends us is for our good. Sometimes we don't recognize that, but in truth that is the case. All right, so it goes on to say various other halachas. Mishi, would you read that? That's Perik Chof Gimel, chapter 23, and verse 7. This one pasuk, and then I'll call you one more pasuk, and then we'll call it a shir. All right, would you read it? What does that mean? Translation. All right. What does that mean?
I understand. What I don't understand.
But it stands for things that are against Torah or doubt.
Second line, first column. Noki is a person that's found innocent by a Jewish tribunal. A tzaddik is a righteous type. Don't put to death. We're talking about a Jewish tribunal where they have jurisdiction over capital punishment cases. You have a case come in front of the Jewish tribunal. And the halacha is, the Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us that if you have a capital punishment case, you have to have at least 23 judges sitting in judgment on this case. That's the way the Jewish halacha would be. So, a person found innocent and a righteous type should not be put to death. Minayin, how do we know? Rashi says. He takes, of course, from the Gemara. A person goes out from the Bezdin, from the Jewish tribunal, and he's found guilty and he's been put to death. That's the punishment of the tribunal. Omer Echad, one says, I have additional evidence that can prove that he's innocent of the decision of the court. So how do we know? We turn him around and give him a new trial. We don't put him to death. We give him another trial. We open up the trial. Talmud Lomer, because we have this passage in the Chumash that says, an innocent person should not put to death. Even though he was not found righteous by you, your Bezdin, he was not found righteous in the Bezdin, in the Jewish tribunal. Regardless of that, he is innocent of the punishment of death. He should not be put to death. Because in truth, if you hear this additional evidence, you will find that in fact he should not be put to death. Because you should find him meritorious and not be put to death. Because you have the evidence. You just have to listen to it, that's all. Now the other way around. And how do we know? If a person goes out from a Jewish tribunal, found innocent. This, incidentally, is the concept of the rule against double jeopardy. We have in the Constitution of the United States that you're not permitted to place a person against double jeopardy of trying for the same offense twice. Even if he's guilty the second time, since he's found innocent the first time, you cannot try him the second time. Now, how do we know the same rule applies? It comes from the Talmud. Again, you'll be amazed how many rules come from the Talmud. And how do we know? Yotze Bezdin Zakai. Person that was found innocent in the Bezdin. And one says, I can prove that he's guilty, and he should be put to death. She'ein machzirin no so. The Bezdin. We do not force him to go back to the Bezdin. Rule against double jeopardy. But Lomer, but tzaddik al taro. A righteous person should not put to death. V'zeh tzaddiku. This is a tzaddik who was found just Bezdin. Now, some of you may be perturbed that there's being a failure of justice here. In truth, this person is guilty of sin. How do you say that you let him go? When we know we got proof positive that in fact he should have been found guilty and he should have been put to death. So he says, God says to us, don't worry about that. Don't worry the fact that there has been, in effect, a failure of human justice. Because of the last part of the book, I, God, will not justify the wicked one. You may have gotten away with ways to get away. You get it? It doesn't rest upon you to make him go back to another trial. I, God, I will not justify him, but deny in my judgment. Even if he got out of your hand and found innocent, I have many agents. I put him to death with the death that he is really guilty to be put to death. And the Gemara says in Tesuvah that even though there may be a failure of human justice, there is never a failure of divine justice. All the time, if a person deserves to be stoned to death, God makes something comparable to being stoned, like, for instance, a wall falling on him, something comparable to the type of punishment that he should have had. So, you see, once you learn how the Gemara explains it, beautiful. Just beautiful. There's nothing extra, there's unknown, and everything is as clear as beautiful as should be. And that's the way you're supposed to learn. With the Gemara, with all the poskim, and you become excited. Your life becomes beautiful. When you can learn inside, and you don't have to take these translations, the Rabbi Rachmanis, who knows what it means? And that's what I'm trying to inspire you, to come to that point. You won't allow anybody to jip you from your inheritance. You are Jews, and you deserve your Jewish inheritance. Don't let somebody box you out of it because of lack of knowledge. You have an opportunity now. Take that opportunity and learn and become the God-fearing individual you should become. And the person that is a ben Torah, a true knowledge in Torah and mitzvahs the way you should, your life will be beautiful. Now I want to just take one more pasuk and then we'll call it a shir. In the beginning of Shishi, if you look at the beginning of Shishi, that's Perik Chav Gimel, chapter 23 in Shemos, in Mishpatim, verse 20. Would you read that pasuk, B'Tzalel? Naftali, what does that mean? You should understand, the Medrash tells us that God said this to Moshe Rabbeinu, Jewish people, and Moshe said to God, I don't want the angel to lead us. I want you personally to lead us. Because the Medrash tells us the angel was created by you, and he has a certain make. What's the makeup of an angel? Is programmed by God. Just we know now about robots and everything, about computers and everything. He's programmed by God to not have any Yetzer Hara have any influence over him. He can't understand how human beings cannot go and do the will of God. It's beyond his conception. How he can't conceive that anybody should do anything against your will, because he was motivated completely to serve you. You, God, that created us, you understand we have this failing, that from time to time we find difficulty in observing your will. And we need your mercy to temper your justice in order for us to survive, because he would be too strict with us. And then the last part of the pasuk says, and I will bring you to the place which I have prepared. What place is that? Look in Rashi. Later on, of course, at the time of Yoshua, the Malach came. The Malach was the Tsar of Bnei Israel, the guardian and the guardian of the Jewish people. So he says he came to one. He helped with sinking the walls of Jericho, the ground. A lot of things. All right, let's go further. In Rashi, that's the first column, halfway down. Behold, I will send an angel. Kan nisbasro. Here, God gives him the news. Sha'asidin koto, that in the future the Jews sin. V'shchina, and the divine presence of God, Omer Islam, says to them, I will not go in your midst, because you see, this is one of the reasons we have to become righteous types, is because we should be worthy of being in the come to God be in our midst. For instance, Baruch Hashem, we're learning Torah now, so we have the divine presence of God right here with us, and we should be awed by that we're learning in the presence of Almighty God. That's what Moshe wanted for the Jewish people. If you are in the presence of Almighty God, you're guarded against all your enemies. That's the way we should keep it. The more we learn Torah, the more mitzvahs we do, God is here with us, and He protects us. Let's go further. Asher achinosi, that I have prepared. Asher zamanti, that I have prepared the seis lachem to give to you. This is its plain explanation. Rashi says, Ela mokom asher, see, what does it mean to the place I have prepared? Var mokomi nikar kenegdo. My face is recognizable opposite it. It grows. This is one of the places, psukim, in the Torah, she'omri, that says that the temple of heaven is directly opposite the situs of the temple on earth. And in the future, and it should be B'nehera of Yameinu on our day, the heavenly temple will come down, occupy the situs of the other two temples. It's already in existence. So God says, I've already prepared this place for you. We have to be worthy of having the temple then. And it will come when God wishes it to come, and we can hasten to the time of coming if we do tshuva and become the Yerushalayim and do the mitzvah the way we should. Any other psukim that you have any difficulty with? This week's Sedra or last week's Sedra?
Right.
That's Elohim is referring to, there's two pshatim. Elohim means God, and Elohim means Bezdin, means the Bezdin, because they're acting as shluchim, as agents of God and possible. Okay, hold this point. Any other shilas? None? Oh no, it was an angel God was sending to guard, to help the Jewish people in their activities, in conquering the land, going through he proposed to send them in the wilderness, but Moses didn't want any part. Why are we unique from any other nation unless you are with us and you don't have your Shekhinah anyplace else except with us? No other nation in the world has it. Perhaps, yeah, the angel. Yeah, but God does. And same thing when he made a mistake and he counted the Jewish people in a census rather than indirectly. No, they can't punish him, but only by for them the way they should. It's a system of checks and balances. It's always better to do the right thing, and you won't have this problem in the first place. They're just agents of God. Yes, all right, it's solid.
During the 38 years between the spies,
God was leading the Jewish people. I know the prophecy wasn't there, but God was still protecting the Jewish people, even though they had done improper things. God is that way. God protects us many times when even we don't deserve it, like we learned there. He says, God says, I judged you, I found you not worthy, still return your soul to you. So God is very long-suffering, thanks God. And He's very kind to us. And we should respond to His kindness with love. That's what our responsibility. We should love God, we should respect Him in every way. And if we truly love God, we will do what we should do to serve him. That's what it's all about. All right, let's hold this year. Any other questions, none? All right. Have a good Shabbos. Well, next year.